Hey folks, how you all doing? So this is part 2 of my ranking the Bob Dylan's studio albums collection from least favourite to favourite. As mentioned in the 1960s video, if you haven't watched that already, go back and watch that first. This is the 1970s studio albums one. But in case you haven't watched that one, I'm ranking them almost decade by decade because there's 40 studio albums and it's just way too much and way too long to rank them all in one video, in my opinion. So I'd split it up with the 1960s in one video. This is 1970s. We'll do the 80s and 90s in another video, and 2000s onwards in the fourth installment. So yeah, we just rank them in the decade order from my favourite to or least favourite to favourite. This is 1970s. There's 10 studio albums to get through, so without further ado, let's go. So at number 10 on my list I have the Basement Tapes, 2 CDs of Bob Dylan and the band jamming. Most of this was recorded in the late 1960s but not released till the early 1970s. So as I said, Bob Dylan and the band. It includes unfinished tracks and demos. It's pretty forgettable in my opinion. Sorry to say it, but it's a 3 out of 10 album for me. Number 9 on my list of 1970s Bob Dylan albums, Self Portrait. It sounds pretty unfinished. The songs are just unfinished. The ideas aren't there, and reinventing himself, it's just not working at all. The whole thing sounds unfocused and even out of tune at times. It's just not really a good album. There's just so much of muchness. He's reinventing himself by recording songs again that he'd done previously. It's just, yeah, his covers on here as well. In fact, the best thing about the album is the cover art. It comes in at 3 out of 10. Number 8 on my list, we go to New Morning. This one's not very good either. He just looks bored on the cover, as you can see, and it suits the boring material within. If Not For You is actually on the album, and yeah, that's pretty much it. There's really not much to write home about this album. It's just a really boring album. Another 3 out of 10 album for me. Number 7 on my list of Bob Dylan's 1970s studio albums, I got Planet Waves. Some people really love this album. Great for them, as long as they enjoy it, that's good. I personally don't. It says a lot when you've got to record 2 songs of the same average song on an album to finish an album, and in that case it's Forever Young. That's not a bad song. It is the best song on here in my opinion, but there's 2 versions. One finishes side A of the vinyl, one opens up side 2. It's just, yeah, it's just very, I'm struggling here to even pick much that I could say I really like, because I just don't. It's just to me it's a very average album, and again, the album cover is probably the best part of it. 4 out of 10 in my opinion for that album. At number 6 on my list of Bob Dylan's 1970s works, we have Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. More of a soundtrack album than a studio album. Apart from Knocking on the Door, this album is really average. Half the album is instrumentals, but to be fair, I do really enjoy listening to this album. It's not a great Dylan album, but it just brings a bit of variety to what you expect from a Bob Dylan album. So I'll say it's not bad. It's not bad. It's one of those albums I enjoy listening to for a change, as I said. It is passable. 5.5 out of 10. Next up for me, an album that a lot of people really do not like in any way, shape or form. Dylan. This was released by Columbia Records when he left. Dylan didn't authorize it. He didn't promote it. He didn't want anything to do with it. I had to get my copy from Japan. It cost a fair dollar. It's a lyric sheet in Japanese. There's a little obi strip there as well. It's just, yeah, it's just really hard to get and cost a fair penny to get. It's basically a covers album. There's some good covers on here. Can't Help Falling in Love, the Elvis Presley song, absolutely brilliant, sung by Bob Dylan beautifully. Mr. Bojangles is sung beautifully in my opinion. The Ballad of Ira Hayes, Big Yellow Taxi, all really, really good songs. I don't see why people dismiss this album, why he didn't want nothing to do with it. I just see it's just a really, really good album. 7.5 out of 10. Number 4 on my list of Bob Dylan's studio albums from the 1970s. I got Slow Train Coming. His first in a trilogy of spiritual, evangelical, Christian, preachy albums. It's a really, really good album. Gotta Serve Somebody, Slow Train, Man Gave Names to All the Animals. Just really, really good album. And one of the most beautiful songs he ever wrote is also on this album, in Precious Angel. You don't have to be spiritual or religious to appreciate this album. You just listen to his lyrics and see the way he views Christianity and religion in general, from his own perspective. Really, really solid album. It's actually one of my go-to albums for Bob Dylan. Comes in at 8 out of 10. Number 3 on my list, we go for Street Legal. This divides fans. It's sort of midway in album rankings for most fans. I really, really like it. It's almost a verse, chorus, verse type stuff. So singing songs like that with the traditional structure of pop songs, rock songs, whatever you want to call it, it makes Bob Dylan sound quite quirky, especially back then in the 1970s, I think. And that's the reason why I really like this album. Look, the songs aren't great, a lot of them. You know, Changing of the Guards is a good song. Senor, Tales of Yankee Power is really, really good as well. Where Are You Tonight, No Time to Think, really good songs. Not classic Dylan, just good songs. And as I said, there's a slight quirkiness in the nature of this album, which is what I really like. 8 out of 10. Number 2 in my ranking of Bob Dylan's 1970s albums, we go to Desire. Masterpiece is a word I use for this, and I don't use masterpiece lightly. Bob Dylan gets it a few times in his career because he is a master, and he's proven that, getting a laureate Nobel Prize for Literature says it all. People don't get that normally, and he's the first musician to ever get one. Hurricanes on this album, that isn't even the best song on the album. It's really not. Isis, Mozambique is pure genius. One More Cup of Coffee, Oh Sister, Black Diamond Bay, Sarah's on this album as well. It's just sheer masterpiece. 9 out of 10. Great stuff. Which means my number 1, my favourite album of Bob Dylan that was released in the 1970s goes to Blood on the Tracks. Probably no surprises there for most people. 10 pieces / songs of lyrical genius. There's nothing you can say except masterpiece for this. Does contain my favourite Bob Dylan song of all time, Tangled Up in Blue, which Bob Dylan says took 20 years of living to write, and took 20 years of living to get down in an hour or 2 hours or something like that. Very similar. 20 years of living in that song. Great stuff. Shelter from the Storms on here. Simple Twist of Fate. Give Me the Morning. Great stuff. Just pure brilliance. This is a go-to album that I would recommend to people who don't really know Bob Dylan neither. It's just masterpiece. It shows him at his lyrical best. So great stuff. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching that second installment of my Bob Dylan rankings video. Hope I haven't bored you too much. You know, as I said in the other video, leave your comments in the comments section below. What are your favourite Bob Dylan albums of the 1970s? Do you think I've got my list totally backwards, upside down, inside out, and the wrong way around? Let me know in the comments section below. Rank the albums in your list, and you know, I'll have a look at what you think, because everyone's different with Bob Dylan. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Stay safe, take care. All for now. Catch you around in the third instalment for the 80s and 90s Bob Dylan studio albums rankings. Bye, folks.